It's always something. Welcome to another riveting edition of The Ghost and the Goat. I am your host, Buddy Thayer. I'm the Ghost. I'm the paranormal investigator. With me usually is my friend, the Goat, Bams, who usually comes popping on in from the fields. I got to turn this down a little bit. I'm a little bit loud this evening. Not an uncommon thing with Buddy. And the Goat usually joins me for a bevy of sports talk. We do an hour of paranormal. We do an hour of sports talk. Which kind of changed a little bit while the Goat is on hiatus. He's getting his hooves rehooved, I guess you could say. He's getting his pointers pointed. He's getting all his bells and all his whistles checked out. So he's going to come back. When he does, I'm excited to have him back because sports is in a really high swing right now. We'll get into a little bit of that in just a second. So today we have a really special show. After tonight's show, if you're viewing us tonight, if you're viewing me on my Facebook outlets or on I don't know, Bam's stuff or on YouTube or any of that stuff, or the Get Haunted page, which is a group of lovely people who put my show and many great shows like mine on Facebook for y'all to view different paranormal shows, different hosts from all around the area. Get Haunted is the page. It's a little skull. You saw the little thing in the beginning. That was them. So you can tune in on that network, or you can tune in on that Facebook page, profile page, whatever. I think it's a page actually. And you can tune in on the Van Down by the Riv podcast, and that's on Facebook, and that's where you'll be able to jump into the chat room and interact with our guests this evening, with me, with the various other members in the chat room. Do it through the Get Haunted page. There's a whole slew of people in there right now, just getting things fired up. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate everybody tuning in each week on Get Haunted. It's or wherever you happen to be viewing me from, be it Twitch, be it YouTube, Facebook, the various social media outlets. Okay, I thank you for that. After this evening's show, we will be running, if Ed uploads the video, we'll be running the 5th episode on not on Get Haunted, of course, on all my other outlets of Three Dudes Brews, which features myself and two fantastic other beer enthusiasts. We travel to various breweries around New England and around Rhode Island, mostly Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Mass so far. And we just sit and chat with the brewers about their craft and about my appreciation, about my co-host's appreciation for such an amazing quality product that they put out. Their heart, their soul, everything gets poured into one glass. We got big announcements coming with Three Dudes Brews. Big stuff coming up. Big stuff is brewing in the brewery, if you will, of Three Dudes Brews. So tune in to our newest episode this evening on a Van Down by the Riv podcast, YouTube, blah, 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 Facebook, all that stuff I just said, except for Get Haunted, because it's not a haunted thing. It's a beer thing. So tonight, sports this evening. I say we're in the high swing of things because this is the final round of the Major League Baseball playoffs. The LA Dodgers, the West Coast, which is who I'm going for, believe it or not, is taking on the evil empire, the New York Yankees. I mean, they both had really great seasons. It's a lot of really great former Red Sox players who we didn't want to pay anymore or just outright released and send packing out there to LA, and they have a wonderful team out there now. And they're going to take on the one of the worst, one of the biggest thorns in my spine as a Red Sox fan, the New York Yankees. Granted, we've had some. This is our 20th anniversary of our great comeback against the Yankees and our on to glory. We went on to St. Louis and we captured our first World Series title in Christ, what like 86 years. The curse of the Bambino was destroyed. All that good gravy and horse shit. And it's paranormal. See these weird. This weird way of how paranormal and sports kind of mesh together, and not just in this show. So I'm going to give you some fun facts about. I'm not going to talk about all nonsense and all the hype and all the players and all the BS. I'm just going to give you some fun facts about the two teams playing in the Major League Baseball World Series. So the first one we're gonna look at the Dodgers because that's the team I'm going for. The team was initially founded in 1883 as the Brooklyn Atlantics before changing its name to the Brooklyn Trolley Dodgers, named for the public, the fans who had to dodge the trolleys there in Brooklyn, New York. They were made famous for that, and they named the team the Brooklyn Dodgers. They shortened it to the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1932. The Dodgers were one of the first Major League Baseball teams to have an African-American player when they signed Jackie Robinson in 1947. Let me tell you, if you don't know baseball, Jackie Robinson wasn't just like a ball player. He wasn't just the first black player to come along and was able to play with to break the color barrier and to tear all that crazy racist bullshit down. He was a pretty good ball player too, and so Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball. He paved the way for other great African-American players to follow. His uniform number 42 has forever retired league-wide. The Dodgers have won 6 World Series championships. With their most recent coming in 2020. Some of the team's most memorable moments in the World Series include Kirk Gibson's walk-off home run in 1988. Clayton Kershaw's dominant performance in Game 1 of the 2020 World Series. I'm hoping that the Dodgers are able to dominate the New York Yankees, but I think it's going to be a 7-game series. Anyway, I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a great World Series. But anyway, I digress. The Dodgers have had several Hall of Fame players wear the uniform, including Jackie Robinson, Sandy Koufax, Duke Snider, and Pee Wee Reese, just to name a few. Pee Wee Reese also played for the Boston Red Sox, another great team. These players are considered some of the greatest to play the game ever. Number 5, the team has an intense rivalry with the San Francisco Giants, with the two teams facing each other in the National League West Division. The rivalry dates back to both the Dodgers and the Giants were New York-based, like the evil empire of the New York Yankees. The Dodger Stadium, the team's home field in Los Angeles, is one of the largest stadiums in Major League Baseball and has been in use since 1962. The stadium has a seating capacity of 56,000 and is known for its iconic outfield bleachers where fans gather to cheer on the team. The stadium was recently renovated in 2020 and should serve the team for the coming decades. Number 7, the Dodgers have a rich tradition of excellence and a winning record nearly every season since the team's founding. Look at them. Their record of 11,217 wins against 9,000. Now, this is a weird fact to me because I watched those baseball documentaries by Kenny Weber on PBS, and all you hear about the Brooklyn Dodgers is their fans calling them bums. Them bums. How many? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I like I said, I digress. Number 8, the team has had a solid commitment to community and charity work with the Dodgers dream. They all do. That's not that important. Number 9, the Dodgers have produced many memorable moments and players from Jackie Robinson's era to the dominant performances of Clayton Kershaw and Fernando Valenzuela. These players and moments are celebrated by fans, testament to the team's rich history. I'm reading from a script, by the way. This isn't pulled out of my back pocket. And fact number 10, the Brooklyn and Los Angeles Dodgers have a passionate and dedicated fan base. Blah, blah, blah. Who called them bums? Them bums. Our beloved bums when they were leaving. But all the best luck to the Los Angeles Dodgers and a whole slew of former Red Sox players, including Mookie Betts, who honestly I kind of shed a tear a little bit when he left because I just recently purchased his jersey. Moving on to the New York Yankees, the evil empire. The Yankees were originally a Baltimore team, but they were moved to New York in 1903, and they were called the Highlanders because they played on a hilly part of northern Manhattan, now called Washington Heights. Newspapers had trouble getting Highlanders into the headlines, and on their own began to use the term Yankees or Yanks for short as early as 1904. In 1912, the Yankees Hilltop Park Ty Cobb went into the stands to beat up a fan who was heckling him. Big surprise, Yankee fan with a big mouth. Cobb had a sour personality, and his temper was well known, and the Yankee fans are well known to be to be edgy individuals, but going into the stands was beyond anything that could be tolerated, and Cobb was suspended briefly. Cobb was kind of a douche. Moving on. Number 3, Slim Caldwell won 96 games for the Yankees before landing in Cleveland to play for the Indians then. They weren't the Guardians back then. In his very first start, leading with 2 outs in the 9th inning, he was struck unconscious by a lightning while on the mound. I tingled all over and just naturally sank to the ground, he said. 2 weeks later, he hit a no-hitter against, he threw for a no-hitter against his Yankee teammates. Good for him. Number 4, the area that would become Yankee Stadium was cleared, and a remarkable ballpark built by Babe Ruth himself was built in a mere 284 working days. Number 5, until the early 1920s, fans were asked to throw balls back so they could continue to be used. It wasn't until 1921 when a Polo Grounds fan who refused to return one ball actually sued for the right to keep it. That baseball relented and allowed fans to keep the balls. That's a fun baseball fact, not just a fun evil empire effect. Number 6, the first World Series rings were awarded in 1922 to the then New York Giants. The first time the Yankees players got rings was in 1927. Number 7, not only did the Yankees win the pennant in 1927 by 19 games, winning 110 in the process, but they did it using only 25 players. They did make a single roster change the entire season. Well, whoop-de-doo. Good for you guys. Number 8, in 1932, World Series baseball legend Babe Ruth called his home run against the Chicago Cubs. Lou Gehrig, the next batter, also homered. This seemed Lou's fate, always performing in the shadow of his great teammate. That's people have said that's more fiction than it is nonfiction. A lot of things with Babe Ruth I feel like are, but I don't know, he was a great ball player nonetheless. Changed the game. That whole era of as much as I hate the New York Yankees, that they have tremendous talent playing for them for the entirety of their organization. So while they are the root of all that is awful in baseball, they are also the root of all that is good and all that is right and all that crazy stupid shit. So going on to the next one. After the Yankees won another championship in 1939, there was an attempt to try to pass rules to slow them down. One rule said that no team could make a trade with the pennant winner. That lasted a couple of years and then it went away. My father grew an awful hatred for the New York Yankees after seeing them win year after year after. It's so I was born to be a Yankee hater. Number 10, the first day Yogi Berra showed up to the Yankees clubhouse, he was still wearing his Navy uniform. He was the only major league player, by the way, to participate in the D-Day invasion of Normandy. The clubhouse didn't pay much attention to him. I guess he didn't look like a player, someone asked. He didn't even look like a sailor, the clubhouse manager responded. Good for you, Yogi Berra. That's a good fact. Thank you for your service, despite your Yankee affiliations. Number 11, Whitey Ford is actually the only pitcher from the second half of the 20th century under 6 feet tall to get into the Hall of Fame. Didn't really care. In 1954, the Yankees won 103, but finished 8 games behind the Cleveland Indians then. To help this disappointment, the team held a fan appreciation day late September and even handed out a program apologizing for not winning. That's kind of cool. From the late 1960s through the early 1970s, Horace Clarke had a whole Yankee era name for him, but not in a good way. Many wondered why he often wore a helmet on the field. I don't know why that's listed, but for some reason it is. By 1973, the concrete in the old Yankee Stadium was weakening. It was especially difficult on bat day when young fans would bang their bats on the ground to make noise and get a rally going. The banging caused more concrete to break apart, and it became a dangerous situation. That was in 1973. I don't think they built the new Yankee Stadium until the 90s. So just another reason why the Yankees are not a great organization. Number 15, Yogi Berra was never paid for the cartoon character, Yogi the Bear, named after him, obviously. You're lost, dude. You played for the Yankees. Whatever. The Yankees tried a fuzzy mascot in 1983 called Dandy. That didn't work out too well. And they got rid of it after a few games. If you talk to any respectable or even any unrespectable Yankees fan, they'll throw in the 27 wins, World Series wins. They'll throw in the God. It's got to be close to 40 pennant wins. The Yankees are a great organization, like I said. And they have a tremendous ball club. Even now, Aaron Judge is he's that 6'7" just machine of a man that can just so easily swing the bat and hit home runs. It's just like scary to see on TV. I couldn't imagine pitching to him. So I mean, should be a great World Series. Go Dodgers. With that, I'm going to flip the switch. We're going to go to the NFL. Week 8 this week. It starts Thursday night with Minnesota, who lost a really close game to Detroit last week. That was a nail biter, which I expected it to be. I ended up taking Detroit in that one, so I got that one. I had 10 wins last week, so just some fun facts. If you're into the whole betting thing, just pick the ones I'm picking, and maybe you'll win, maybe not. Maybe you'll be totally wrong and you'll lose a ton of money. But it'll be funny either way. So Minnesota, who has one of the best defenses right now in the NFL, the NFC, they're I think they have maybe one loss. They're traveling to LA to face a very deflated Rams team. While the Rams are going to be starting Cooper Kupp this week, and what's his name? Stafford is still a remarkable quarterback. I don't really see them putting a dent in that Minnesota defense. So I'm going to go Minnesota with this one. Sunday, we don't have a London game this week, so we're going to start right fresh at 1:00 with the dominant Baltimore Ravens traveling to the less than dominant Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns lost their less than their quarterback that was like not exactly the Person of the Year award candidate, Deshaun Watson. He didn't take any hits. He had a non-hit related ACL tear, and he's out for the next year and a half after signing this massive contract. And now they got to pay him for 2 years to get massages and God knows what else with his So I think Baltimore is going to walk into Cleveland and totally destroy the Browns. The Browns just signed for you Pats fans, just signed Zappy. I don't know if Zappy's going to start or if that other guy with the failed career because he plays for Cleveland now is going to start. But either way, whoever starts that game is going to finish it, and in the same fashion. And they're going to lose to Baltimore. The next game, speaking of shitty teams, the Tennessee Titans, who are just terrible. I think they're on their third quarterback. They had Levis in, and he was garbage. And then they put in Rudolph, I don't know. And he really didn't pan out that well. Whoever they got playing this week is not going to pan out that well either, because they go to Detroit, which is Detroit, not only beat Minnesota last week, but they totally pooped on the Dallas Cowboys the week before. Didn't allow them to score one touchdown, ran up the score of 47 points. What's his name? Jared Goff is probably quietly becoming the top candidate in the MVP. I don't know. Should I not speak this soon? He's spreading the ball across the field. The running game's clicking. The defense is clicking. The whole game is clicking. So, Detroit Detroit could put in their second string and still beat Tennessee blindfolded. So go Detroit all day. This next game, the Arizona Cardinals travel to my Miami Dolphins to face a very deflated Dolphins team. However, Tua, speaking of inflated, Tagovailoa comes back from his, I don't know, this is his 14th concussion in 4 years. And disregarding everybody's dismay for this, he shouldn't do it. What about his head? Nobody look at his head. We should play him as a flag football quarterback. But I feel like Miami was on fire last year. It was the fastest team in the NFL. And this year, we made the playoffs. And this year, not so much. While I think Arizona is a great team, I think this miracle is going to happen in Miami, and it's going to be like putting the key in the engine, and it starts up, and everything's brand new, and oh my God, it's this nightmare is over. If I was a betting man, I'd pick Arizona, but because I'm playing with my heart here, I'm going to go Miami all day. The next game, oh God, this is terrible. The Jets look like trash, which is great. Bams, I don't know what you were talking about when you said Aaron Rodgers this, Aaron Rodgers that. Aaron Rodgers is garbage. They surround this man with the top talent in the NFL. They brought in his old teammate, this guy he scored a whole ton of touchdowns with, and they still suck. And I am enjoying to see the New Jersey Jets fail week after week. not the New York Jets, the New Jersey. They play in New Jersey. They've played in New Jersey for 50 years. I've talked about this. I'll move on. But they happen to have one of those games where they're having like, hey guys, we need to feel better about ourselves game. So they got to come to New England and totally shit on the Patriots like everybody else has. Just when you thought that New England, that the Jacksonville Jaguars were the worst team in the league. Hey, surprise everybody! Week 7, New England is actually the worst team in the league. While they started Drake May, and he looked good, he looked okay. He wasn't able to like keep his head above water. He did get beat up a lot. He got sacked a few times. He got hurried a whole bunch of times. He threw some good passes. He can run the ball. He might be an option in New England, but you guys got to surround him with so much more. He is not going to be like the resurrection of Tom Brady, who isn't even dead yet. So I would go with the New Jersey Jets all day. New England is terrible. Atlanta Falcons at Tampa Bay. This is a tough one too. This is both teams are really super good. Both teams played each other like 3 weeks ago, and Atlanta won right in the end. I think. Tampa Bay is beat up. They lost their 2 top receivers, Mike Evans and forgot the other guy's name. They went down last night in the game. They got no one to throw to anyway. I don't know. I think Atlanta's going to come through and take the road win and sweep the Buccaneers and take the top. I don't know. Maybe take the NFC side. We'll see what happens. But I think Atlanta all day. The Chicago Bears, rookie quarterback versus rookie quarterback. Caleb Williams, who's doing okay on a trash team, takes the Chicago Bears to Washington to face a really dominant Commanders team. Jaden Daniels, the number 2 draft pick. Yeah, Patriots fans are probably like crying in their drowning in a river of their own tears because they probably wouldn't have got him anyway. But wow, the pick before them, he is such a rock star quarterback, and these 2 teams are going to face off. Washington all day. I think Washington is another going to go pretty far this year. Well, I don't want to curse them, but we'll see what happens. Speaking of teams that are not going anywhere this year, the Jacksonville Jaguars host the Green Bay Packers. Enough said. Green Bay is going to win. Indianapolis Colts, who are also terrible, visit the Houston Texans, who barely lost to Minnesota last week. CJ Stroud was a little bit quiet. Maybe if he's a little bit more active this week, things will work out. But their running game really looked on fire. Mixon had again another 150-yard week, turning it up on the run game, turning it up on the defense. They're gonna there's not even a shot for Indianapolis. The New Orleans Saints travel to LA to face the Chargers. New Orleans is marred by injury. Their starting quarterback is out. Their wide receivers are out. A few of them. I think Kamal is still in, but they kind of beat up, and they go to LA to face a team that's not. They didn't look too good last night. They played the second Monday night game, and they didn't score a single touchdown. They lost the game 17-15. Real barn burner that one there. The Chargers really, I don't know. It's a rebuilding year, I guess. It's not a rebuilding year though for the Buffalo Bills, who went and signed Amari Cooper out of Cleveland, rescued him from the sinking ship that is the Cleveland Browns. The Buffalo Bills are scary. They are traveling to Seattle, who are also pretty good, to take on a former AFC East quarterback in Geno Smith. Buffalo, I'm traveling to the lovely city of Buffalo in a couple weekends to watch the slaughter of my Dolphins, this part 2 in Buffalo, so staying with some lovely friends. And I'm going to drink some lovely beers and watch my team completely drown in the sea of Buffalo. I would go. This is going to be a good game, but I would still go Buffalo on the road. They were all fire on all cylinders. Josh Allen has not thrown a single interception. I hope he throws like 10 of them, but against Miami. But they're looking pretty solid. I mean, Seattle looked pretty solid last week, but Buffalo's got it. The EAGLES Eagles, while they've been flying a little bit low, I think they're going to pick things up this week and fly a little bit higher. They're going to push right above the Cincinnati Bengals. They lost to the Patriots. That's all I got to say. They lost to the Patriots. The Patriots one win. Right, so anyway. So winless teams, the Carolina Panthers, who are absolutely garbage, are traveling to Denver to face a team that's coming along. Another rookie quarterback, Bo Nix. He's starting to come into his shoes. I think were they like 5-2, maybe 4. I don't know. Their defense is solid, and they can compete, which Carolina cannot. So pick Denver all day, points or not. The Kansas City Chiefs and Taylor Swift travel to Las Vegas to take on a very deflated Raiders team. I think the only thing the Raiders have going for them anymore is Seth Crosby, which Seth Crosby, so the kid I went to grade school with. I don't know. Crosby, he's a linebacker. He's vicious. He's just vicious, and I love that in a linebacker. I wish he would come to Miami, but he won't. And he's the only bright shining light for Las Vegas, I believe, at this point. Kansas City, there's not even a question. Go Kansas City all day. There's also not even a question. The Dallas Cowboys are absolutely trash, and it's really nice to see because I'm not a big fan of the Cowboys, and they're taking their trash heap and their trashy owner Jerry Jones to the land of the fruit and the nut to play San Francisco, who has been a little flighty this season. They haven't really. The defense looked solid one week and then like not so solid last week, but I think they're going to come back alive. And like 10 years ago, this would have been the game of the week. 2 years ago, this might have been the game of the week. This week, this is like a lame Sunday night game where you're going to watch if there's nothing else better on TV. Speaking of nothing else better on TV, the New Jersey Giants rather traveled to Pittsburgh for the Monday night game. The Giants, they have a shitty secondary. They have a poopy. Their run blocking. They can't stop the run really all that well. They let Saquon Barkley run all over them last week, and Daniel Jones isn't really that good at all in altogether himself. He's the quarterback of the Giants, and they travel to Pittsburgh, which Pittsburgh Russell Wilson is starting. He looked pretty good last week after sitting on the bench for half the season, and the Pittsburgh defense is what scares me the most. Their running back is pretty solid. They got that guy Pickett who can catch the ball really well. Screw New Jersey and go Pittsburgh all day. Really quick before I break from the sports and we flip the paranormal switch. Tonight, my NBA champion Boston Celtics start their run for the second consecutive championship against the New York Knicks, who actually play in New York City, and they lower the banner from last year. As you can see, our overlay was the championship, the finals from last year. So go Celtics. I'm not going to talk a lot about basketball because just keep Porzingis on the shelf for a little bit. Let him get better. He's not in tonight. Just let him get better. Store him for the playoffs, and we'll make that run again. We'll make that run. All right. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna move on. We're gonna flip the switch. We're gonna go to paranormal now. So tonight's guest for the paranormal, he's it's kind of like it kind of has a personal note for me. This guy. While I don't know him outside of like this here, I kind of know like a colleague of his, but that's kind of how we met. I had him on a show, and he got a reading done by Christina Marie, one of the mediums who came on and did some free readings. She had we interviewed her here a few weeks ago on The Ghost and the Ghost. She's tremendous. And that's how I met Dave initially, our guest. And then once he's like, oh, I do stuff like this, blah blah blah. And he told me a story a little bit. And I was like, oh wow, that's amazing. I got to have you on. So we booked a date, and I looked into his. He has a book, and the book was made into like a little bit of a documentary movie type, and I watched that. It's absolutely gripping for two reasons. For me personally, so the first reason, being a Rhode Islander, being here in Rhode Island, I'm 45 years old, so I was working in a bar that night. My best friend was the bartender. We were cleaning up at the end of the night. The news was on. It's like, oh wow, dude, the station. Look at that. That's fire. Oh my god, that's crazy. Like so many nights I went to the Station Nightclub. I went so many bands there. Like this is like an iconic staple of Rhode Island. And like anybody who lives in Rhode Island, who lived in Rhode Island at the time, knew somebody that passed in that, and I was one of those. So a friend of ours, a friend of mine, his name is Mark Fontaine. He went to school with my friend Jeff. Well, he was in the class with Jeff. I was in the next class up at LaSalle Academy, at the Good Academy. And he was just a tremendous soul, tremendous guy. Always had a great personality, a great sense of humor. Was always the life of the party. And even after high school, he worked for Bickford's on Mill Spring Avenue in North Providence. And Bickford's, if you're not familiar with Bickford's, it's like a breakfast. It's like a Friendly's, I guess. It's like a Newport Creamery. And I'm referencing other Rhode Island and New England locations, but it's like a little family restaurant, right? And they serve breakfast and they serve like lunch and dinner. I guess not really expensive at all. Very family. But one of the biggest like draws of Bickford's is they were open late night. And at the time, I was kind of a late night kind of guy, if you know what I mean. I was a bouncer and in a bar, and I like the taste of alcohol a little bit, probably a little bit more than I do now. So Mark was my friend Mark was he was the hostess, and he was the host, and he was the manager at Bickford's, and we'd go in and be like, there'd be like a 4-hour wait, and he's like, oh no, wait, give me, I got a table. He did it right away every time. Just a good dude, not just because he sat me and fed me eggs and bacon. I was coming down from my alcoholic bender, but I mean, he was just a great soul and a great person. He was celebrating his 22nd birthday went with his sister that night. He went with his sister's boyfriend. He went with a couple other friends, and there was only a couple of them that actually made it out of the nightclub. And they didn't, like I say, they made it out. They made it out alive. They survived, but I can't imagine the mental and the emotional anguish these people have endured over the years. It was just a horrible, traumatic affair. So our guest son was the youngest victim of the Station Nightclub Fire. You saw him on the poster with Mark in the beginning of the show, Nicholas O'Neill. So that's just like it was just like a holy shit thing. And then after his son died, and he's going to talk more about this on the show, he started receiving signs, which is really, really personal to me, because back in 2019, in May of 2019, my wife Heather passed away suddenly of oh god, pulmonary embolism. Right, woke up one morning, she was okay, she was feeling a little sick, and then bam, she was out. So it was just crazy fast. And since that time, I have had hundreds of signs. I've had mediums, Roland Comtois, Tiffany Rice, mediums that I work with. Sarah Gagney. Talk to me about personal, like not just like I see an H, or I'm seeing a woman, I'm seeing a wife. No, they're like, hey, your wife Heather said she loves you, like she said she loved you the day she died. Like, like, how do you know that shit? So stuff like that, stuff like dreams, stuff like we'll talk about. So with Dave today, all the signs that he got, or like really a personal, like hits home. As a paranormal investigator, I've been a paranormal investigator for 20 years, but just as a human being, having some of these experiences is just next level. So when I read his story, when I saw his movie, it's just absolutely moving. So I big welcome. He's not just an author and a parent. He's a comedian, believe it or not, and he's a host on WARA. Oh God, I think it's 1320 AM, and they're out of Attleboro. He's on Saturday mornings from 9 to 12. Please welcome Dave Kane.
Oh boy, hi. How are you? Boy, you
Sorry.
made me want to hear what I have to say. First of all, thank you very much for the knowledge about where the Dodgers got their name. I knew that. Yeah, I'm not a big sports fan. The last time I went to a baseball game, nobody even got a touchdown, so really didn't know much about it. But I do want to tell you something you're going to be surprised at. I noticed that you had Mark Fontaine's picture on your old promo. What you probably don't know is that Mark's parents and I went to school together. Went to elementary school together at Holy Trinity School in Central Falls. And we've known each other since we were kids. And then this happened, and both of our sons passed in that fire.
Oh my God, that's awful. I mean, if anything, it just goes to, like I say it all the time, it just goes to show what a small state we live in, and what, but
well, yeah, but this is, of course, there were 3 states there. People in Connecticut came in, Massachusetts. 1/3 of the people were actually from Massachusetts.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So what can I tell you? What do you want to know?
Again, Dave, I'm sorry. That's an awful thing to happen. My heart goes out to you. I couldn't
Thank you.
imagine losing a child. I mean, losing a spouse was difficult enough, but it happens suddenly like that. It's terrible. So tell me a little bit about. Well, I know a little bit about you. I know a little bit about what your book is about. Tell us about 41 Signs of Hope. How did you get into?
The book 41 Signs of Hope came from Nikki, because Nikki's lucky number was 41. You get in the car with me, say, Dad, look, it's 241, or license plate. Dad, 41, 41. He didn't know why he had it. We didn't know why he had it. He couldn't figure it out. We looked into numerology to find it, and 41 is joined as to maybe 5 in numerology, and it's a very good number. And so what it was, when he passed, he was 18 and 23 days, 41. The Station Nightclub is at latitude 41. The fire call box at the station was 4414. And on the cover of my book is a sketch of Nicky from a videotape found a year after he passed. And in the videotape, his mom's holding him. He's about 4 months old. He has a little baseball uniform on, and the number on cap is 41.
Wow.
And beginning the day after the fire, we started to get amazing signs from him. And that's what the book is about.
Wow. So what was one of the first signs that you knew?
The first sign was from a medium whose name is Cindy Hillman. Cindy was from the East Greenwich area. And I used to have her on my radio show periodically, and she'd do readings for people that call in. And the morning after the fire, I got a call from her. This is predates cell phones, on my answering, on my beeper. And I got an answering machine, and it said, it was her. And she said, I heard what happened. If there's anything I can, please let me know. And we hadn't publicized about Nick yet, so I didn't know exactly what she meant. So I called her, and she said, well, 100 people died, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be, like you said, buddy, very upset, and maybe I can help out. Then I told her about Nikki, and she said, oh, I should have said something. Well, I wasn't in a good mood that morning, and I honestly felt, okay, now I got a medium who's going to tell me something she didn't really know. And I hung up on her. I was infuriated. Now, I knew her, and I knew she was legit, but that day was not a good day for me. So a couple of days later, I called her back, and I said, I won't apologize. She said, no, you've got to hear what happened. She said, I stayed up most of the night watching the fire on Channel 10. She said it. The next morning, I got up to make a cup of tea for myself, and I sat at my kitchen table, and I had the vision of a charred boy. And the boy said, please call my father. Please call my father. Now, she didn't know who this was. Had no idea. It would shook her up terribly. And she went to her own personal phone book, just grabbed it and opened it up, and it opened to the K's. And my name was the only name on the 2 pages.
Wow.
And she said, well, I'll go on Dave Kane's show and find out who this young boy is. She had no idea it was Nicky.
Wow.
And that was the first one on the morning after the fire. Jesus.
I mean, you didn't even have, you probably had some idea, but you didn't even have confirmation at that time that.
No, actually, it was really weird because we didn't hear from anybody for 4 days. We went to the Crown Plaza. I sat with the Red Cross people. I made arrangements to get his dental records. That's a chilling thing to have somebody ask you.
Oh my God, I can imagine.
Records so they can. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And then on Monday, I was answering all the phones, and my wife was completely incapacitated. She was completely without ability to barely stand. And I was answering all the phones, and I have a lot of members in the media, friends, and they were all calling me to get stories or get information.
Yeah.
And then my phone rang, Joanne's phone rang, and it said Nicky. And I grabbed the phone, and there was nobody there. Then I called AT&T and told them the situation. They chased the number for me, and the phone had been turned on about 10 of 12 and shut off, and then turned on again at 20 of or 10 of 3, which is when I got the call. And I thought it was a first responder that had found the phone. When we got the phone, it didn't work.
Right.
It was completely out of sorts. So they couldn't have used it.
Right.
He was letting us know that it was almost over because 11 o'clock that night, I found it. That's when I got the call from the police, who have to come to your house and officially tell you, and then you have to sign the paper that you've been told.
Jesus.
And that came on Monday, and Monday that night at 11 is when I got that.
God damn, that's
So he let us know.
Yeah, no, that's and you know, people like oh, how's that happen? How do they do that with phones? I watched your interview with Keith and Sandra Johnson. Good. Keith is a great guy.
Oh yeah,
Keith
yeah, yeah,
great people. Was that like
sure,
over
yeah.
a decade ago now? I myself had the privilege of being on that show like about 4 years ago.
Right.
But yeah, they're great people. They've supported me for years. But after hearing that story, it's like, wow, that's kind of cool because we I mean, I had was doing like fundraising events with Roland Comtois at the time, and we'd have events, and with those events, and he'd call me right out of a crowd and be like, "Hey, don't think just because you're here doing this for these other people, don't think I'm not here for you too." So he'd always grab me, give me paper.
Oh yeah,
paper.
yeah. Good guy,
insane,
good guy.
Great man. Some of the things this guy would tell us. So one of the last times I went and saw him was just after COVID. He stopped doing things for a while during COVID because the whole COVID thing, right? And then he came out. He took a little while to come back out again because he didn't want to catch it. And when he did, it was at it was like last September. It was at this like yarn store in like Wood River Junction, right?
Yeah.
And my dog had just passed away. Like we put her down like a month before that, and it was my dog that I had with my wife. It was Sophie. She was a golden retriever, lab mix. Great dog. Had cancer. They initially gave her 3 months to live. She lived 20 months. It just seemed like it was like. So that's not what I'm talking about anyway. So we go to this place, and Roland like comes at my mother and starts talking to her about my wife and stuff, and then he turns, he looks at me, and he's like, she says she has the dog. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful, blah blah blah. And so the purple paper message, one of the things it says is, I'm going to find new ways to talk to people, new ways to communicate with people. So shortly thereafter, this happens to two of her like really close friends. One of them, and this still happens to her today, Erin. She has an iPhone, and there's a feature on the iPhone that will give you a picture of the day, I guess, on your phone when you turn it on in the morning.
Yeah.
It's only occurred like 6 times, and every time that it occurs, it's always had this picture that comes through. But she'll pick it up and turn it on in the morning, and the picture of the day, it would just be bam, it would be my wife's face. So that she always found that interesting, especially because she'll talk to Heather and she'll be like, "Hey, I need help with this, I need help with that, I need a sign," and bam, she'll wake up the next day and she'll be on the cell phone. So then,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
All right. So her other friend Missy, this is where the phone thing comes in a little bit more, like your situation. She had her cell phone. She was at her daughter dances in Pawtucket over near the old Monet Mills on Mill Spring Avenue there.
Right.
And I know you're familiar with the bucket. And this woman's pretty much a pretty hardcore skeptic. And she's like, "Buddy, I'm just sitting there, just waiting. I'm playing on my phone." And she gets a beep on her radio. It says, "Message from Heather." I'm like, huh. She's like, "I wonder who that could be." She's like, "But I was looking through my phone. I swear to God, I thought there was another Heather. The only Heather I have was Heather, my Heather, your Heather. I just never could bring myself to erase her number." It happened like 3 or 4 more times, and then the last time it happened, it said, "Message from Heather," and she opened it, and it opened, and it was a file, and it says, "Had pizza the other day. It was better than Twins Pizza." And Twins Pizza in North Providence, I met my wife Heather working there. Heather met her friend Missy working there. We all, a bunch of friends, everybody worked there. And but there was like for her to that phone that she had that was connected to that telephone number has been destroyed. It got waterlogged. Like right after she died. I haven't had it in years. In years, it's been off. So how would that happen? So when I heard your situation, Dave, I'm like, wow. I'm not the
Well,
only
it's
one, I
years
guess.
our time. It's not years their time.
Right.
They travel. It's not like here. It's very different, and so uh, they have so many things that they can do, and it's wonderful to know they're trying. I'll tell you my Roland Comptoir story real quick. My
Oh,
wife
please.
made an appointment for me, and I didn't call him. I'd had a lot of publicity around that time, of course, and
Mm-hmm.
by the time I got to Roland, everybody knew who I was. You know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
I went into this guy and hoping he wouldn't know me. And I sat down and he said, "Oh my God," he said, "you have so many spirits around you." And he started to write, you know how he writes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, they walk among us. And
Mm-hmm.
They Walk Among Us is the name of the play my son wrote
Oh, wow.
before he passed. And my thought was, this guy knows who I am,
Yeah.
because I mean, who's going to say that,
Right.
And of course, 2 minutes later, he began to tell stuff that he couldn't possibly know.
Right.
And then I realized, but it was so odd. My son wrote a play a year before he died called They Walk Among Us. The play is about teenagers who die and come back as angels.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
so
then,
he gave me that title, and that was my first introduction to Roland.
Jesus, that's incredible. And I tell everybody, I'm like, as a paranormal investigator, it's cool because it's validation. You can say it's validation because they're telling you stuff that like only you really. I mean, a lot of the stuff that they're telling me, like things that I know about Heather, or like things that we share together, like
Mhm.
intimate like thoughts or intimate moments or intimate like things that verbally, like how's this? Things I never told anybody, and she's dead. So how does he know this?
But she's not dead. And, I'm going to
Yeah,
correct you, buddy. She's not
please do.
dead. And this is you don't normally, the only time I use the word died is when I'm talking to somebody who I'm just beginning to introduce to this. I always say
Hmm.
past. We always talk
Sure enough.
about in present tense. Heather didn't used to like that pizza. She still likes that pizza.
Yes. Yes.
We set a place for Mickey at the table, not because he's going to say pass the salt.
Hmm.
It's because we're telling him we know that as hard as he's trying to get through, we hear him, we believe him, and we're having him with us. So
Yeah.
they're not dead. And that's the problem of getting people to buy into this stuff, is that
Hmm.
we've been brought up. There's something I call men, especially. I'm shocked that you're
Hmm.
into this. Men, especially for my stuff, the 41 sign stuff, they're not buying it. I think
Right.
they're afraid of it. They're afraid of it. And I tell you what,
That'd be my guess.
I
Yeah.
I call it the Santa syndrome.
Hmm.
We're
Hmm.
brought up as kids and we're told, well, Santa Claus and the toys and then we find out, well, maybe not. And then we're told about the Tooth Fairy. And then we're told about the Easter Bunny. And all
Right.
of that stuff goes away. And now
Yep.
you got a guy, and we're saying to you, we want you to know that your wife is passed, but she's really trying to get through to you. She's really
Yep.
here. And it's not that you don't want to believe, it's that you're afraid to invest in it, that you'll get your heart broken again. And
Hmm.
so they're afraid that Lucy's going to move that football, to use a sports reference.
Yep.
Uh, this is what keeps men, I think, away from it. They're afraid
Hmm.
of looking foolish or being wrong.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we need to stop doing that.
Because socially, if you believe in this stuff, you're weird or you're crazy. Typically, right? Unless you believe in it,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you're on the right
And
page.
if you're old, and if you're older, a
Hmm.
lot of older people who are getting valid signs. When I do my talk, I do them for hospice organizations. I do them for nurse, deaf and dying classes. I've done
Oh
a
wow.
few senior places, and
Hmm.
they're afraid to tell anybody because people think, "Oh, she's starting to lose it now. Let's put her on the other side,"
Yeah.
and that that breaks their heart too. And we need to validate it for them so that we can find out later that it really is true.
Yeah. Okay. So when I say she's dead, I do believe that she's
I
energized.
know.
I believe they all are. I believe it's all energy.
Yep,
I
yep,
believe,
yep.
honestly, Dave, there'll be days I can't find my keys. I look everywhere for my keys. I can't find them anywhere. And I'll be like, hey, why don't you go look in the garage? Like, why am I gonna go look in the garage? And then I go look in the garage and they're not in the garage. But then I turn around, like right there on the ground next to the garage. Like, okay, maybe that
Yeah,
was me, or
it
maybe that,
happens.
maybe.
No, happens all the time. It happens
Yeah, you
all
get
the
thoughts put in
time.
your head,
I
or like
mean,
there's been all right. So there was a time I was driving to work. I worked at Bridgewater State Hospital. I had a long, like a
yeah,
45-minute drive
yeah,
there every
yeah,
day. I was driving to work.
yeah,
I just like is like 2 years later. I just like lost my shit. It was a Monday.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, Heather, I just need a sign. I just need something. I'm like, I need that. Like, show me that you're still there. That like there's something. Please. I'm just like really struggling right now. And within 2 days, I got my first sign. Then 2 days later, I got the girl with the phone. She was like, "Oh," she sent me a picture, and it was Heather when we were vacationing in Vermont. It's like, look what
Yeah.
just popped up on my phone. And then that Saturday, I went to my best friend's house. Well, one of my best friends, and he's a wicked skeptic. And he's like, "Dude, I had this like." He's like, "I had this dream about Heather, and we were both flooring. We were in there doing the floor, and he kept telling me to make sure you tell Buddy I love him. Make sure you tell Buddy I love him. He needs to hear that." And then they talked about like his kid, and he's like, it was so real, dude. He's like, I'm not into all this shit. He's an atheist, but he's like, I kind of think that was Heather talking to me through my dream. I'm like, 100%, dude, 110%. But that's exactly what I
Yeah.
needed to get me through. And I had just asked her. So there were those 3 occurrences where I feel like she's like, hey, I'm still here, and hey, I heard you, and like with the keys, with anything else, I think, yeah, absolutely, they're there all the time, 100%.
Oh, sure they
Um,
are. And it's up to us to realize it and to
mhm,
embrace it and to
mhm,
open the door for it in so many ways. Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
for sure. Um, oh boy, Jesus. So tell me about what was the one, if you could name one definitive sign that you got that said like, hey, I gotta like tell other people about this. I gotta write a
Well,
book about this.
we've had many, many, many. I mean, the book is only this thick. I mean, I could have made it an encyclopedia size.
Hmm.
But you get the message after you read, after you read those stories, you realize, boy, okay, if you don't get it by then I can't help it, But I'll tell you too, we had two things that have happened. Well, many things, but the year Nikki passed, we got a session with medium Robert Brown. Robert
Hmm.
Brown is from England,
Oh
and
wow.
he comes to the States periodically, and somebody told us about him, and my wife wrote him a letter, and his assistant got it and wrote back to us that he's coming to New York the first weekend in October. If you
Hmm.
can come to Park Avenue in New York, we'll give you the first session. By the way, this is 22 years ago last week
Oh wow.
that the week before. So what happened is we make arrangements to go there and have a meeting with Robert Brown.
Hmm.
That was great. First weekend in October. The trouble was the first weekend in September, I had 2 heart attacks
Oh boy.
and quadruple bypass surgery.
Jesus.
So yeah, so 4 weeks later, I'm on the train going to New York.
Hmm.
And here's what we get on the train, and my wife says to the conductor, "Excuse me, can you find us 2 seats together? Because he just had open heart surgery." And he said,
Yeah.
"Open heart surgery?" He said, "I had open heart surgery." Good. He said, "How you doing?" I said, "Good." He said, "Are you getting exercise?" I said, "Yeah, yeah." He said, "Are you eating good?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Have you had the depression yet?"
Mm.
I said, "No." He said, "Good." And he pointed at my wife and said, "Good, because you got a lovely daughter."
Hmm.
You bastard. All right, so we get to New York and we meet Robert Browner for an hour. He tells us stuff. First of all, after we found out, he thought we were 9/11 people
Hmm.
because before we got there, he saw the fire and the people,
Oh
and
god.
he thought that was 9/11. So when we sit down with him and he tells us for an hour things he couldn't possibly know. He told us where Nikki was standing. He told us a story about a woman who panicked during the fire, threw herself on the floor, and he reached down. Nikki went and picked her up and helped her out, or helped her up. And 3 months later, I was approached by a woman who was also there and got out and told me the very same story about Nick.
Oh wow!
That he had helped that woman. And
That's incredible.
I don't know, yeah. So he told us that. And then at the end, he told us, your son wants me to tell you one more thing, that the show must go on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nicky is a writer, a composer, a singer, an actor, a comedian, a playwright. His band was supposed to open for Great on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taking him to his girlfriend's house, and he wasn't getting much money for the gig, you know. And I was giving him the lecture, Nick, show business, got to get your bucks, you know. You do it for free, they'll let you, right?
Right.
And when we got to his girlfriend's house, he said, yeah, I said, I didn't mean to pick on you, but I don't know why you'd sell God's talent so short. And he gave me a hug and a kiss. He said, Dad, because the show must go on. So Robert Brown told us the very last words my son spoke to me.
God, that's
that?
That's pretty poignant. Like the last words my wife said to me was, "Buddy, I love you," and then she lost consciousness. So, I mean, that's kind of common. It's still kind of cool when I was told that, but that's pretty. Yeah, that's not.
It's nice. It's not common. Not
No,
everybody says that every day to their spouse, unfortunately. I mean, they
true.
say it, but not when it's the last verbiage you hear. That's special. And for somebody to know that is great. Ours was very different, only because the show must go on. I mean, people don't normally say that.
Yeah.
So that was pretty devastating. We went to the Stage Door Deli, and it was the first time we were laughing and crying and eating all at the same time. I had this is the first real meal that I had since my surgery. And I'm sitting eating these big hot pastrami sandwiches, laughing and crying at the same time, because we knew it was Nick. Nobody could know that. Only Joanne and I knew that phrase, that we're the only ones.
Right.
And kids didn't know it. Nobody.
Yeah.
And we were so elated. We knew that was Nick.
Of course, when they tell you
I have
something
another one.
personal.
What?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh,
no,
please.
you go ahead. What?
No, when they tell you something that personal, it's just it's mind blowing. Yeah.
To deny that is foolish. Denying that makes you look really stupid to me. So here's the story I like to tell people, because it's something everybody can relate to. My wife worried that Nicky suffered in the blaze, that he felt the flames, that he was, quote, burned to death. She couldn't stand it. And every medium we've been to, Cindy Gilman, Roland Comtois, Robert Brown, Lisa Powers, you name it, they all said the same thing to us. They all said, no pain. They didn't, when we asked them, that was the phrase, no pain. When we asked them, they'd say, no pain, no pain. When we didn't ask them, they'd say, no pain, no pain. Well, we were tagging a Christmas tree in Lincoln one year, because Nick liked to do that. We're tagging a Christmas tree, and my wife was in that mode again. And I was trying to tell her, what are you doing? He's told you 1,000 times, no pain, no pain. Every medium we've been to, no pain. When you're driving him crazy, he doesn't want you crying. He doesn't want you sad. He wants you to know that he was well. Stop thinking like this. And we get in the car, and as we're going up Breakneck Hill Road in Lincoln, I said to her, and I don't know why, I said to her, for God's sakes, Joanne, what do you want him to do? Put it in writing. And as soon as I said that, a car up in front came around the corner coming the other way, and the vantage plate was no pain.
Yeah, synchronicity is definitely
it's
a thing.
Unbelievable, right?
Unbelievable.
It was owned by an anesthesiologist who lived about a quarter mile from the place, and he had gone out to get milk or something. He comes back, and
Lord.
right when I say that, he comes around the corner. So
What are
you
the
tell
odds?
me that that's
Yeah, what are
coincidence?
the odds?
Can't be. Can't be.
That's
You wouldn't put money on that.
right.
You
Right.
wouldn't put money on that. By the way,
That's
Cindy Gilman. Oh, go ahead.
no. Go
So
ahead. Go ahead.
Cindy Gilman, the medium that we've known for years and who gave Nikki's first message, passed away 2 years ago, and she died on April 1st, 4/1.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
Good Lord. So many. It's hard to say. It's not after a while. I belong to this organization called the Varnum Memorial Armory. It's Rhode Island Military History Museum
Yep.
in East Greenwich,
Yep.
Rhode Island. And some of the things a lot of the things that they have in there, it's synchronistic how a lot of it came together. And I mean, I could take a whole hour show just explaining like just half of the
Sure.
synchronicities that happen. It's just like incredible when you break it down. At what point is it like not coincidence? You know, like how many? Oh, that's just coincidence. That's just a coincidence. Like, nah,
I
dude.
know. Well,
It's
that's the
not.
thing. Well, you looked at the book. I mean, you know that if you read every story, finally you go, it can't possibly all be coincidence. It's not possible.
No, I don't think it
Not
is.
possible.
Absolutely not.
When
No,
I
absolutely.
started writing the book, we have 4 boys, and the oldest is Chris, and the youngest is Nick. And when I started writing the book, I was writing about Chris, and for some reason, I wrote they were 10 years apart. They were 8 years apart,
Hmm.
and my computer kept underlying 8 years. And I I changed it from the number to writing EIGHD. Nope,
Hmm.
still underlined. I try all this thing. I called my wife. I said, "Why is this doing this?" And my wife said, "Oh, that's because they're 10 years apart." So somebody else was helping me write. And
Is it something?
before I leave, I want to tell you the Mark Ambrose story.
Oh, please, yeah, go ahead.
He's your friend. It's the reason I'm on the show here. We met through Mark.
Hmm.
I had Lisa Powers on my show 2 weeks ago to plug her appearance Sunday in Attleboro, doing
Hmm.
her group. She's
Yep.
terrific. We have her at our home every year. We have Nikki's birthday, and we
Nice.
bring the family in, and she comes and reads the family. And Nikki
Wow.
lets us know what he knows that happened this year.
Hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we have her in to raise funds for Nikki's foundation. Nikki has the Nikki O Foundation to help young people who want to learn music or learn about drama, and we help them do that
That's
with the
awesome.
Nikki O Foundation.
Hmm.
So I had Lisa on, and I had invited Mark to be on the show with me and maybe to read from her, and he couldn't do it. He had some conflicts.
Hmm.
So I said, okay. So I have her on, and as I'm wrapping the interview, you'll appreciate this because you do stuff all the time. I'm
Right.
wrapping. I'm saying, okay, well, thanks very much for being with us. We'll see you next Sunday. And she said, wait a minute, who's Mark? And I
Hmm.
said, Mark? Yeah, is there a Mark there? I said, yeah, well, yeah, there's somebody who works there. And she proceeded to give me Mark's wife's name, who passed away several
Yeah.
years ago.
Yep.
His wife's name, his wife's birthday, name of their dog, and the name of their daughter, and a couple of
Yep.
other things. I mean, this was just out of nowhere. He wasn't even in the building. She was on the phone. I had never mentioned to her anything about him at all. To her.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I was a little nervous because, to be perfectly honest, it was so much money. I was afraid that Mark would think I had fed her the information, you know.
Hmm.
And of course I wouldn't do that, but I was
No.
concerned. And
Yeah.
it was great. It was
Yeah.
great.
It's really heartfelt when you get something like that. It's just I tell everybody as a grieving husband, it's just it's remarkable. It's helped me to get over the loss, to know that she's still there, to know that she's actively still there. You know, that's
Well, yeah, and that's what I tell people. Listen, we say, "Oh, I lost my wife." Oh, great! If you lost your keys, would you be looking for them? And the
yeah.
same thing with us. We have to look and open ourselves and find our loved ones. They're not
Hmm.
gone. They're not lost. They're right here.
Mm.
They're trying to get through to us,
Yeah, I think so.
and we're the ones that have to stop foolishness in our heads of denying or being afraid or whatever it is. Let them hug you, just like you would leave them. They're not leaving you. Period.
That's tremendous. It's tremendous stories.
Yeah.
As an investigator, as a paranormal investigator, I go out to people's homes sometimes, and you do the whole gamut of investigating, and you come through, and you're like, sometimes it sounds like an old lady, sometimes it's suggestive, maybe it's a grandparent, but I mean, in the end of the story and everything. But in the beginning, people are terrified. People are there's so much negative connotation about a haunting. I mean, it does.
Yeah.
It
Well,
does give you kind of
one,
like something
well, one of the
negative.
things is interesting. If you use the word ghost, it freaks them out.
Oh,
Spirit,
really?
they take a little bit better.
Yeah.
They're not quite as upset. But it's true. I mean, they're afraid, and I don't know. I mean, this is your mother, or this is your wife, or this is your son. What are they gonna do to you?
Right.
Why are they mad at you? They're not mad at you. They have no.
No.
They want to talk to you and love you. That's all they want.
Oh, I felt this
That's
cold
all they
air in the
want.
room, and then there was a knock on the door, and then my cell phone fell down off the counter, and again, I'm
Yep.
trying to get your attention, dude. It's like
Yeah.
they can't. They tapped me on the shoulder, and nobody was there, and I felt a shock, and my hair stood up, and then I heard my name whispered in my ear. Is it a demon? No, it's probably your uncle who misses you. You know, and yeah, it's your parents, or it's
We
nine times out
have
of 10. You know.
yeah. We have an EVP.
Oh,
Opinion.
really? Oh,
Do
wow.
you want to explain what that is to your audience, or
Well,
you want me?
well, you could explain, yeah, to my
An
non-paranormal.
EVP is just simple. This is here we go down the road now, but EVP is electronic voice phenomenon. And what happens is people all over the world sit with tape recorders or recording devices, and they record the voices of children or of people who have passed. Okay.
Everybody, anybody.
We have one from Nikki. It's one of the clearest, I'm told, it's one of the clearest EVPs people have heard. And it is absolutely my son's voice.
Really?
And I'll send it to you, buddy. I'll send it to you.
Please. I'd love to hear it.
And it is absolutely Nikki's voice. And he says, "Mom and Dad, this is Nick."
Wow.
It's astounding.
Where, when, how will you record?
A woman contacted us. Do you know Maureen Hancock? Do you know that name? Maureen Hancock is a medium from Massachusetts.
Yeah, it sounds
We
familiar.
had several sessions with her. She was giving sessions to parents who had lost children. She was doing them just for free. And we met her. And in one of the sessions, my wife went, and she said, "Do you ever hear Nikki call you?" She said, "Well, sometimes I think I do." She said, "Well, he's telling me that this time you'll hear him call you and there'll be no mistaking it." So our son Chris, when she got home, he took the recording of the session, and on the tape, right where Maureen Hancock says he's going to be calling you, there'll be no mistaking it, you hear a little boy's voice say, "Mommy." So that got written up in the journal of these EVP people, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And a friend of the editor lives in Southern California, Margaret Downing, her name is. And she contacted me one day and said, "I think your son is sending me EVPs." Now, my first thought was, Nutburger, here we go, right? I mean, honestly,
Yeah, no, that's
she's
fine.
in Southern California. I'm over here. I don't know her. She doesn't know that. I mean, I'm just telling you how this is, it's a long
That's
time
how
ago.
anybody would, perceive it.
Yeah. So she sent me a couple of things that were tough to listen to because they're kind of garbled. They sound like a ham radio.
You don't have to tell me.
Yeah.
I do this all the time.
No, but I'm just for the audience. I'm just saying they're a little bit garbled, but this one was much clearer. And when I heard it, it was his voice, and he says, "Mom and Dad, this is Nick." I couldn't get over it. I couldn't wait for my wife to wake up because I couldn't wait to play it for her.
Yeah.
And it's astounding, absolutely astounding. And I've met her because she knew somebody from the EVPs, and we had seen Maureen Hancock, and they
Yep.
wrote that about Maureen Hancock. As a matter of fact, that session is in 41, the movie. You've seen 41, the movie? Yeah.
I did.
She's
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
there.
I did.
She's
That's.
in there, and that
Oh my God.
recording is in there, is in the 41. Yeah.
Powerful movie. David's.
Christian de Resendes and Nikki's brother Chris did that. Christian de Resendes, who's a tremendous videographer and
Mhm.
producer, and he just did a great job. Tell you a story about him real fast. I don't know much time. I don't want to
You
take up
have
the time.
whatever. You're
No,
good.
no.
You're good.
But this was really good. We Nikki's play on stage in at the Stadium Theater.
Yep.
Second time, but this time we did it on the Stadium Theater. And Christian, somebody in the cast, and volunteered to bring his camera and just tape it. What he did was he put it in the back wall, and just did one of those wide
Yep.
shot things. And I met him and I started to tell him the 41 stuff, because people will say to you, if they introduce you to me, you'll say, don't let this kid be here for a week. Don't say anything.
Mhm.
So we were talking and I was telling him about the 41 stuff. So he taped it. And then after he was so impressed with us, he thought, boy, maybe I want to do a documentary about this. Maybe I could do about the family and what they're doing. So one day he gets up and he lives in a house right next door to his mother's house, and his mother's house is having a roof put on.
Mhm.
And there's a giant, what's that bin? It was the giant trash bin they put out. What do they call them?
A dumpster.
Dumpsters.
Yeah.
A giant dumpster out there. He walks out of his house, and on the side of the dumpster is a giant 41.
Oh God.
And he says, "That's it. I'm doing the movie."
That was the sign for him. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah. It
Now
goes on and
I
on and on.
yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I had never been to the memorial. I had just never. Yeah.
yeah,
And for so many years you drive by there, and it was just that like makeshift memorial, and
yeah, yeah.
it wasn't fantastic. But I went by. I had a dream about my friend Mark a couple months, like, oh God, it was more than a couple months ago. It's probably like 5 or 6 months back. Not too long after the anniversary, the 21st anniversary, and I'm like, I remember driving, not like probably that week. I had to go pick up my mom at work. My mom works in Coventry, and I work in Warwick, so I was driving from there. And my mother called. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be another hour." She's like, "Just go fishing or something." I'm like, "Yeah, cool." So what can I do? I'm like, "Oh, like I've never been to the station site, so it's absolutely beautiful there." I did,
It's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. I was
yeah,
on the
I really,
board to put that together, and it was what a struggle to
yeah.
get that
Oh,
done. It was a
oh my
terrible
God, I
struggle.
bet.
So go ahead. Yeah,
Just the timeline, just reading that, that's horrifying in itself, and just being
yeah,
on the ground, just like knowing that I was in that club, Dave, like probably like 100 times in my teenage years, and I could have been in the club that day. I
sure.
was just in another, I was working in another club, but it could have happened to any of us. It's just it hit so close to home, and just
Yeah, yeah. I had a
like
guy
remembering that
come up
stuff
to
is
me one day and say that he almost went there, but he got there and he couldn't find a place to park, so we went home.
oh wow, oh my God,
Right?
ooh.
Yeah, yeah,
There's somebody
yeah. I can
who
say,
had tickets, and
well,
he ended up getting sick a few days
yeah.
before. He's like, "Yeah, dude, I just couldn't go." And then he's like, it's almost like a
Well,
blessing.
yeah. Well, your time it's all planned, I believe.
Yep,
Nikki went that way because there's a reason. This is a
yep,
kid that took guitar lessons and wrote 50 songs. He wrote
yep.
this beautiful play that is now being made into a feature motion picture.
Oh wow.
And because of his age, people recognize it more.
Hmm.
He had died when he was 65. Nobody would think
Right.
much about it, I guess. And it's interesting. Now, it's really interesting. I'll tell you a story about that site. The uh, the head, Gina Russo, who's the president of the organization that is running the
Hmm.
Forever Family Foundation, the Station Fire Foundation.
Hmm.
She went to visit it one day with her grandson. Now, they have those little monitors, those audio monitors, is
Yeah. Oh yeah.
like
Yep. Yep.
little headstones, they look like, and they have everybody's picture on it and when they were
Yep.
born and everything. And she came with her little grandson. I think he's 2 or 3. And she let go of his hand, and he went running right over to Nikki's headstone. And he stood there and was talking to it.
Wow.
And she wait to get a hold of me to tell me what's going on there, right?
Yeah, right.
They're around there. You feel spirit when you go there, didn't you?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. There was
Yeah.
definitely a different feeling, in the atmosphere, if you will. I describe it sometimes as like my body picking up on barometric pressures or picking up on change in the atmosphere that maybe is caused by spirit activity. For sure, it's definitely something there. And then going back and like watching some of the news footage from that. Oh my god, it was just like, I'm so sorry, dude. That's like I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine living through something like that. So what now? What after the fact? Are you involved in like the lawsuits and the Darians?
Well,
How do you
that's all been settled legally. It took 7 years to get it done, but it's all settled down and done. Beakley, the guy that pressed the button for that, he took a lot. Pardon the expression. He took a lot of problems that he really didn't deserve. And
right. They put
when
all
my
the blame
wife
on
and
him.
I had the chance to do our victim impact statement for him, while I was writing the statement the night before, I could hear Nikki saying to me, "Come on, Dad. Come on, Dad. Dad, come on." So the next morning, when we gave our um, statement, we forgave Mr. Beakley and told him that we understood that nobody does this intentionally, and our boy would want us to forgive you, and so we have.
I can't imagine like the guilt that would have that like ravaged this guy's brain.
He wrote an individual letter to every single person. He wrote a letter of apology. I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And I'll give you a Rhode Island one. He wanted to go to CCRI while he was incarcerated, take courses, and he had to get permission, etc. And my wife worked at CCRI in admissions, and his application had to go across her desk. And she came home and said, "This is a good kid. Never had any problems. He was going to college in Florida, and he was on the road to earn money, and And so that was only in Rhode Island, right?
Yeah,
that application going across her desk.
Of course it wouldn't. It's such a small state. We all know each other, unfortunately, and we're packed in so close together here. That's horrible. Now, you feel that justice was served? Can I ask that?
No, because the fire marshal got to retire and go to Florida and have a pension. He should have been in the slammer.
Yeah, he was the one that said, "Oh, it's okay." There's no.
Wasn't
not
just
only it was like recently cleared.
Yeah, it was really ridiculous, and he didn't put up any occupancy signs. He knew they had figured out the occupancy. There's a certain number of feet you allow for these, as you must know. Clubs. There's a certain amount if the tables are there. If it's standing room, it's another amount. And if you're waiting for a table, it's a lower amount. And he figured the entire nightclub on standing room. And they never took out the pool tables. And there was 442.
Yeah, it was way over capacity from what I remember. It's terrible. And then
so listen, we got to get you on my show.
Oh, dude, I would love to come and talk about it.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll have a good time. We'll talk about ghost hunting or whatever it is you want to do.
I could talk, Dave. I could talk ghosts and just my experiences with them until I'm blue in the face. I'm doing.
We'll work it out when I get through all the election stuff. We'll get you on. We'll have some fun.
All the crazy stuff. I'm actually doing it before we wrap tonight. I'm doing you can see my lovely face live and in person at the Warwick Pontiac Mills Library in Warwick, Rhode Island on Saturday, October 26th. I'll be there from 1 to 3.
Yeah.
We're doing haunted history. So it's basically Ocean State Paranormal is my paranormal team. Some of our locations that we've investigated that have historic significance, the history behind them, and then what we have captured at the location. Some of them include like Smith's Castle down in North Kingston, the Lad School, the former Lad School in Exeter, which was completely legal, and just other places. Fort Adams down in there in Newport. The USS Salem that's docked over in Quincy. Just a few like local spots around. I took that talk up to New York. It went well, and then like the day I got back, I had the library like, hey, you want to do that talk you last year? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I could talk about this shit till I'm blue in the face. No worries. So, David, I want to thank you for coming on. It's
my pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Remarkable story, and one I could hear over and over again. So I mean,
well, the book is available on Amazon. 41 Signs of Hope. I don't say it to plug books. I say it to let people know it's there for you. It makes a great present for someone who has had somebody pass. When they're ready, if you give them the book, when they're ready to look at it, I think it will bring them a lot of faith.
Absolutely, because we all have these shared experiences, and some people are just afraid to talk about it. It's actually a thing. Other people are doing it too. You know, it's not just you. It's not just
that's right. They need
it's
validation.
Definitely a thing.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks for coming on. Everybody tune in. Well, you can tune into Van Down by the River podcast in a couple of short minutes. I'll be popping back on. We'll play the episode 5 of Three Dudes Brews live from Black Pond Brews. I say Dayville, Connecticut. It's not really Connecticut. It's like you could stand in Foster and throw a rock and hit this place. It's like Extra Foster. So just go down to Extra Foster, and really great brewery. They have 12 beers, 12 salsas. It's a lovely time. We have a good time. You'll see in just a few minutes if you happen to tune in. If not, you can catch us on our YouTube channel, Van Down by the River Podcast, all of our podcasting ventures. Tune in next week here on The Ghost and the Goat for Big Jim. He'll be joining us. He's a ghost hunter. He's a paranormal investigator. I think he does like UFOs, and he does all the 14. He might be a 14 guy. I'm sure I'll have way more information throughout the week. So tune in to all things Ghost and the Goat for all that good stuff. For Bams, I hope you come back soon. Dude. For Dave Kane, I'm Buddy Thayer. This has been The Ghost and the Goat. Go Dodgers! The hell with the Yankees. Have a good week. That's it. Except if you're a Yankee.